Good evening, folks. This is Lila with some bedtime stories that I'd like to share with you. And with me is my friend Dean Bell and our very dear friend Tim von Pinnon. I'll be reading from the book 6, Your Dream Visions, by Duane, the great writer. And we'll discuss what I've read, and we're going to have some fun. Okay? Book 6. The basic mental personality of one is the ego and the unconscious conditioned inner self, which has mainly come about from the parents and their upbringing. The attributes of the person's parents have a bearing as they are established in the subconscious, as this is what psychologists see when they examine one. But what they do not see is the real you, which lies behind the scene. And so, a person's personality is so much of the time formed from their parents on what they projected into their offspring. In times past, there were certain cultures which taught their children about how nature worked instead of just a lot of intellectual things and memorization, which takes place today. Like the legal system of invented ideas, so is the intellect and invention of itself. On Earth, it applies somewhat to the business world mainly, but in reality, which is synonymous, it makes no sense and do not exist. But a few will perceive this as one gains momentum in their life and goes out into the world. They carry with them the ideals which they have been brought up with. Sometimes things do work out, but I see so much of what people teach others, and it reminds me of high school and all the unessentials that I learned. High school was forced upon me as I lived with my mother, so to please her up until the time I decided different, and I went. But I would have rather been at the beach with my mermaid friends. And so, because of one's upbringing, their primordial cravings have been repressed, as in my case of wanting to be at the beach instead of listening to boring teachers talk about subjects that you can only read about. The Indians had the right idea. They lived every adventurous moment until the white man came along and set up his social structure. Each person is wanting to have their total gratification according to the way that they lead, the life that they lead. And so this is why even after years of earnest and diligent working, supporting one's family, a person may just one day never return home. Each person is trying to connect with the real awareness and finding it impossible to do so with what the rep systems propose. Why have the priests raped children through the years? And if they were not mainly frustrated at being confined with their ideals, time is running out for those who are under the hypnotic emotional behaviors of the world's headmasters. Much of this world is hypnotized without their really knowing it, as they agree with the hidden, brutal agendas that have become commonplace. Just about the only thing which does make sense on the earth is what nature is doing, because mankind, for the most part, has already proven his value. But the real aware must deal with the nonsense of bratty grown-ups who don't care. There are many laboratories around the world which use people to experiment with dreams. Mainly, the government agencies have had these programs going on for decades without the public even being aware. They use natural sleep and also induce people with various drugs to find their reactions, and if an alteration of one of these awareness will take place, they experiment with ESP and other psychic endeavors, such as remote viewing. They have been successful in some of the areas of the dimensional dream world, but mainly that of the Lord Astral. Dreaming always depends upon the individual and their formed consciousness. As these experiments are done, those involved will experience an influx of negativity as their protective aura is pierced. An unnatural drug will do the same thing and attract lower forms of entities into one's aura field. Ever since science has been developed, it has created things which have scarce and others even to have scarce and others, often to the death sometimes. The science fiction movies that all of us have seen are not far off from what has taken place without most people's knowledge. Science is many times into the scary imaginative boundaries and what can be discovered. To most of the susceptible public, who is usually looking for their next thrill from the techno noise, most do not realize that the dangers being produced. Cell phones are one of the most harmful things on this planet, yet they have become a way of life. I think we ought to kind of discuss all this. This takes away the cell phones that everyone uses all the time, and let's discuss that. What do you say, Val?
Well, again, I go back to Clark Terry, this ancient culture, which I'm researching, and they have the magnetic atmospheric way of harnessing the free energy, the so-called Tesla energy, and they could use it for heating or electricity, and they could also, in those days, they had, the atmosphere was different. You know, they didn't have the chemtrails, they didn't have the pollution, and they had the thought that people were thinking, more of a positive thinking, you could say, or just kind of they're just more with nature. So there's times, supposedly they could even levitate, because the atmosphere was such, the gravity would change. It's not just one thing. Just like the speed of light. I was listening to some researchers, and the speed of light is not constant. According to them, it changes throughout the day, or it changes day by day, depending on certain things. Same with gravity. So in the old days, maybe people could levitate like Milarepa. They could transfer thoughts to each other without cell phones. They didn't need this dirty Wi-Fi. They could. They had abilities to just communicate non-verbally, and these things are possible, and they are possible. It's just a matter of agreement, and this world is just it's gone just to a point where it's just insanity. It's really just insane the way it's turning out. It's not getting better. People are still agreeing, so that's why we're here, to see if we can collect some people that want to wake up, do better for themselves.
It's very time to wake up to what is really going on our planet. Most government agencies have technology greater than what they are revealing. HARP is one such device, which can cause more damage than any nuclear blast. It's a secret weapon devised by the U.S. for military purposes, even though they claim that it's different. The Internet has all kinds of information on what I am referring to here. This world is in a state of urgency, and if the masses want to believe the governments of this world and the mad scientists they are using to figure ways to more so control people, then it will be all those who do not pay attention who will come face to face with their creations. Atlantis was in this very same position as the social structure is today, and it was destroyed. I have no real concern for what the secret agencies of this world are doing, because I already know, as I am here to teach people real freedom. Each moment is a drop of a hat. What I mean is, as one looks at their age right now, as an example, they are what they are. And with this relationship, there is no time or space as perceived. There is only now. So when a person was 10 years old and thought about being 20, they were actually already 20. They merely had not perceived it yet. As one looks at their life and where they are now, it's a snap of the fingers to where they are now, and so it will be the same when the very moment comes to leave this place. It is already here and now. Once one properly grasps just what I have referred to, they should begin to notice from all they have experienced what holds the most value in their life. And that should be becoming more aware, because most people really do not have any real experience of what lies beyond this world, even though they may have a belief or read something or whatever. They really have no real experience at all. When we are in our youth, we see a kind of foreverness before us. But in a very short time, say maybe 40 or 50 years later, and all of a sudden, it's like this life has passed us by, as we are now looking at youth from a different angle, which is a memory. All of us do stay young in our real awareness, and so of all that has value, becoming more aware takes first place. Yet most people are not into becoming more aware, but actually becoming more attached to their own illusion and a past that will always be out of reach and gone from their grasp. When a person has acquired the real talent of becoming more aware, they will know where they're going as they leave this physical body. The indifference of the unconscious to death is explained as soon as one recalls its nature. The subconscious or unconscious is not only the nocturnal residue of the waking life, but also a huge reservoir of inherited, ancestral, and collective factors. It can contain phenomenal and temporal inversion, even as disturbing as those seem in a horror movie, and also exalted beauty beyond description. The extrasensory perception can challenge the categories of the space-time frames and all that has caused within these perceivables. And so It is that what is termed as death, according to human understanding of being an end to all, is nothing more than a position of recognition according to the point of perception of the individual involved. As each one of us moves along in years, we draw a line from one point to the other, from 8 years old to 15 to 20, 21, and so on. Is a way to look. That's a way to look at this. This line exists within our imaginary reality as we create and relate an association with it. As soon as we come into this world, we are on our way out. It's true of this place, but the mind and the senses do not want to relate to the same fashion as to what is taking place. So it invents scenarios to keep itself busy with its own fabricated reality, and many times not self-admitted. And so a huge buildup of the endless ideas of one are created. So is their lifespan, so to speak. The final moment will always be the same, and that is whatever the person has become more aware of, so be it. As I have presented so far, these are the many parts to ourselves. Most do not pay the least amount of attention to it. Life is all about a sensible survival, not an illusionary lifestyle which will vanish at a moment's notice.